Despite having the number 2 class in the country, a lot of people feel like Alabama is getting beat up on the trail.
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back into Locked On Bama, AHSA's radio network. Luke Robinson, that's me. Bama Online's Jimmy Stein. That's him. Want to thank everybody who tunes us in every day. You guys are the best. Those everydayers, we love you. We love the newbies too, and thanks for making us your first listen every single day. And also want to thank FanDuel for being this sponsor. Jimmy, we're going to talk into the countdown a little bit more. We got Parker Brailsford and yet another kicker coming in on your countdown today. Those come later in the show. But right now, let's call a spade a spade. Auburn's been kicking chicken in state when it comes to Alabama recruiting, okay? Alabama's got the number 2 class in the country. It's an incredible class. If you take a step back and go just, look back on June, nobody was hotter than Alabama. It feels like right now nobody's hotter than Auburn. And again, that's fine. Alabama's class is still better. And they're still getting great players. But as a member of the AHSA radio network, I do have an affinity for in-state guys. I hate to see them go other places. At the same time, I want Alabama to get the best players they can get. So it's a bit of a conundrum because Anquan Fagans from Thompson, who did come to the cookout this past weekend, he ended up committing to Auburn just like we all thought he would. Auburn got a lot of 2026 guys to commit. I think Alabama's going to end up with some 2026 guys, like Zion Gibson, maybe Sadarian Morgan, who knows, out of this state. And they may flip some of those guys. It's a long way to go. Derek Smith, he also flipped yesterday from Alabama to Auburn. So if you want to just look at the state, Auburn's, beating Alabama over the head, kind of like Nick Saban did with Auburn back in 2008. But, the difference is Tommy Tuberville wasn't doing so well nationally. So I think Alabama's fine. I think Alabama fans are just having a hard time understanding, Auburn's recruiting better because they finally have some of their ducks in a row. And, again, Auburn is one of the top 15, 20 programs in NCAA history all time, whether or not Alabama fans want to admit it. And, Alabama's probably the best, but they're going to get there sometimes. And we've been used to their using the Coach Harsons and things like that. And Gus Malzahn, who didn't necessarily recruit quite as well. They'd get a Derek Brown every now and again. But in the end, I feel like it's a case of Alabama's doing really well and Auburn is catching up some, but they hadn't gotten there. And so I'm sort of the opinion, it kind of sucks that we're not getting the in-state guys. At the same time, you look at the class, guys, it's an awesome class.
Yeah, I think the extremists on either side are missing the boat. The people that go too far on either side. And by that, I mean, those that are making too big a deal of this, I can't see the forest for the trees. Alabama's recruiting class is ranked number 2. You want to trade with anyone other than Ohio State? Is there a class out there worth trading? All that matters is talent acquisition. I'll give you a good example. I mean, right now there's an in-state running back that's committed to Alabama, and Turbo Rogers. He's on the commitment list. Alabama's trying to get a commitment, and we believe at BOL it's going to happen from A.K. Deere. He's an out-of-state kid. That may cause potentially or be a factor in Turbo Rogers not signing with Alabama. Should we care that A.K. Deere is from Mississippi? I mean, it's a universally considered to be a better prospect, universally, not just Alabama's opinion. That's just the recruiting rankings. The goal in recruiting is talent acquisition, not where you get the players from. So anyone making too big a deal of this isn't acknowledging where Alabama's class sits. Number 2, with a chance to finish number 1. Even if Alabama doesn't have any players from inside the state, why would that matter at all? As long as Alabama finishes 1 or 2, that'd be incredible. Now, that said, those that think this is a nothing burger Well, I disagree with that too. That it's not sustainable for Alabama to recruit at a high level year after year after year if Alabama doesn't get more than its share of the top in-state talent. So I think this is an issue to watch, and it's an issue to monitor, and it's something that DeBoer and his staff need to redouble their efforts. And we're not telling them anything they don't already know about. Hey, it benefits Alabama greatly to sign the best players from Alabama. So it is a thing, and it's not a nothing burger. It's also not reason to ignore where Alabama sits in the recruiting rankings, which is what matters. So one final point I would make is, look, this isn't a pattern. I would look at the top 10 players in the state and look at each individual case. Why didn't Alabama get this guy? Why didn't Alabama get this guy? If you want to look for the answer is not going through the top 10 because we lost to Auburn, because we lost to Auburn, because we lost to Auburn. No, that's not the Offord is probably the top prospect in the state. He ain't going to Auburn either. And I think we all can guess as to why Alabama and Auburn are likely to fail to get Naeem Offord, into the signing class. I mean, he's a national recruit that was just out there looking for the best deal for himself, and he's very happy with his Ohio State situation, and that's fine. But that's not Alabama losing a player to Auburn. Some players, by the way, that are ranked in the industry top 10 are players the University of Alabama did not consider top 10 players in Alabama. Okay, Alabama doesn't go by On3's rankings or the industry ranking or 24/7's rankings. Alabama has its own opinion about these players that they've evaluated, and there are players ranked in the top 10 that Alabama viewed as a no offer. Okay, so those aren't players Alabama has lost out on. There are players like a Derek Smith, like Antonio Coleman, that Alabama viewed as, we want these guys, and Auburn out recruited us to sign those too. You got to tip your cap to them. They
hadn't signed them yet.
They haven't signed them yet, and they may not. And Alabama will continue to effort, particularly as it relates to Derek Smith.
Jimmy, let me stop you for 1 second and say that, the one thing that, number one, I do hate it as a member of the HSA radio network and a native Alabamian, because I do appreciate the guys who are from the state of Alabama that end up doing so well. I mean, it doesn't mean I don't love Tua Tagovailoa, Najee Harris, Devontae Smith,
it's like we know them better. These are kids we know because they're local.
And we feel like they have more of a connection. And the other thing is, in this transfer portal world, I wonder, and again, it's too early to tell, but I wonder if you do commit to the home state, are you more likely to stick it out? I don't know. In fact, part of me goes, probably not, because in the end, it's going to be, number one, is somebody else offering you something. And secondly, you want to play. And if that means you have to transfer to South Alabama or to Troy or whatever, if you want to stay in state, so be it. So I'm a little torn on this. And yeah, I do. I'm not going to lie and say that it doesn't bother me. At the same time, boy, I've listened to some of the other Auburn podcasts, et cetera, and some here on Locked On. And, it feels like Alabama's an also-ran program in their minds right now. And I'm thinking, you still have the second best program. Still second best class in the country. I mean, again,
it's the extreme takes are always wrong.
And let's also see how it plays out, because in June, Alabama was cream of the crop. The end of July has been awesome for Auburn. Let's see how this season goes, and let's see, because like you said, Alabama's not going to stop recruiting. And, I feel quite confident that this staff's not going to stop. And I feel like they've got some more good players to get, if not great players to get. So I feel like Alabama has a shot at the number 1 or number 2 class, and all you can do is ask for that, no matter where they come from. And, speaking of that, we're going to talk about a couple of guys that didn't start out at Alabama and aren't Alabama natives in your countdown right now. But of course, I'm going to tell you about FanDuel. Look, I love sports. I love sports so much that I never want them to stop, but they're just not doing like you want them to do right now. I mean, Major League Baseball is in that gray area, like I talk about. There are fewer games right now, but FanDuel helps you stay in the game. It keeps the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right, daily. There's something for everybody every day all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most of your summer. And if you're like me, just bet against the Braves all the time because they've sort of been stinking lately, and I love it. FanDuel is an official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. I also want to tell everybody to go check out Locked On Sports Today, the 24/7 stream. You can go check this out on YouTube. You can check it out on Amazon. You can check it out anywhere you get your podcast, whatever. If you're tired of all the screaming and the takes of, I saw something the other day on Twitter that came through that Mad Dog Russo said Shaquille O'Neal is one of the best 5 centers all time, and Stephen A. Smith's head exploded, and it was just, it was crazy. And I was thinking, number one, that's just a dumb take, and it's only a dumb take because he wants it to be a dumb take, so people say it's a dumb take. And we don't want to do that here on Locked On Bama. We're going to give you good takes or takes we think are good that may just turn out to be dumb accidentally.
We're going to tell you that Shaq is good.
Yeah, we're going to say Shaq is.
You might have gone to LSU, but guess what? Shaq was good.
Okay, so we have made our way to the center of the shrubbery maze, meaning Parker Brailsford. And next on the countdown, right after Brailsford, is going to be Graham Nicholson. Jimmy, if you had told me your countdown in the top 6 would go 6 James Burnip, 5 Parker Brailsford, and 4 our kicker, Graham Nicholson, meaning punter, center, kicker. That sounds like, hey, a punter, center, and a kicker walk into a bar with the Pope joke. You know what I mean? It just feels like it's not right. But I think you've nailed it because, hey, if Parker Brailsford is on last year's Alabama team, they win the national championship. Boy, that's a hill I'll die on.
That's a good point. I don't think I've heard that before. That's a pretty good. I don't dispute it. I think that's interesting take. Let's remember this about Parker Brailsford. As a redshirt freshman, this is how good this kid is. As a redshirt freshman, he was the starting center on the Joe Moore Award-winning offensive line. I mean, that's impressive stuff. As you know, the center gets everybody lined up. The center is sort of the big toe of the offensive line. It's sort of the center's group. He's responsible for so much. He's the middle of that group, and that group won the Joe Moore Award. Parker was then second team All Pac-12. He was a consensus freshman All-American on every freshman All-American team. Unbelievable freshman year. And then he transfers to Alabama. And I know that, he missed the second part of the spring, and that caused a lot of consternation amongst the fans. I can tell you from inside the building that there wasn't nearly the consternation that fans had. And, hey, if you want some evidence instead of like, oh, well, yeah, just repeat some shady rumors, which is not what I do. But if you want some hard evidence, look, James Brockermeyer had a good spring and proved this spring that he's ready to be a starting center at the Power 4 level, and he left. He left to be the center somewhere else. Why? Because he knew he wasn't going to beat out Parker Brailsford. Parker Brailsford was going to be the center. If there was a good chance that Parker was just, quote, not going to show up this fall or wasn't a thing, James Brockermeyer wouldn't have left. But he left because he wanted to be the starting center. He's a redshirt junior, and it's time to either start or never start. And so he picked a place where he felt he could start. If Parker was going to be the center at Alabama, and James knew that. And wow, what a good player! He's got to get a little bigger. I mean, I think that's what he's going to be working on in his time at Alabama is size and proving to the NFL that he could play at the highest level at his size because he's not the biggest guy in the world, but. Hey, you know who else wasn't the biggest guy in the world? Jason Kelsey, who just retired from the NFL. He's one of the smallest starting centers in the NFL. Happens to be maybe the best center of all time. I mean, it's not crazy to say that, but certainly the best center of his time in the NFL. So look, you don't have to. This isn't a position where you have to be 3'10" to be successful. So Parker Brailsford will do for Alabama's offensive line what he did for Washington's a year ago. And as Luke just said, hey, maybe him not being here last year, was a big difference. I mean, what if every snap was dead on the mark last year? I wonder
Forget every snap. Forget every snap.
Give me the one snap.
Give me 10% more snaps that weren't terrible. Yeah. I mean, first of all, I hate to do this, but it's sort of like, how Auburn people on the kick six are so thankful Nick Saban got the timeout or got out of bounds on the 1 second thing or whatever. I'm sort of thankful Seth McLaughlin snapped some worm burners back to Jalen Milroe, or else we wouldn't have 4th and 31. Now, it would have saved me, some heart palpitations at the time. And still now, when I watch that game, when it comes on my YouTube feed and I'm going down the Alabama rabbit hole on YouTube, 4th and 31 comes up, I still go, I can't even watch it. I'm like, this is ridiculous. This makes no sense. And they talked about it on Dusty and Danny in the morning today, that Dusty Dvorak said that came on, and he said, that's one of the most amazing things I've ever seen in my life. He said, that shouldn't happen ever. He said, I watched the last 5 minutes of that game on SEC Network, and I was like, there's no way. He said, even I knew the outcome, and I was like, there's no way. But so in a way, thanks, Seth, for the bad snaps, because it did make one of the more memorable moments in Iron Bowl, if not college football history. And at the same time, boy, if there's one snap that's better against Michigan, we probably win that game. And I'm not talking about the last snap. I'm talking about a litany of terrible snaps against Michigan. One snap is better. We probably win.
And we can rest assured that the snaps will be better. Parker is more of obviously Seth developed that problem, and we'll see. I'm guessing, by the way, that Seth has worked it out. I bet at Ohio State that we don't see that same level of what we saw last year with Seth. But Parker, there was no snap issues this spring from what we're told and what we saw when media is allowed to attend practice. From what we saw at practice, what we saw at A-Day. There was no significant snap issues at all at Alabama this spring with Parker or James or the young freshman like Joe Ionata, who played quite a bit of center, and he's probably the long-term center of the future at Alabama's Joe Ionata. But today is about Parker Brailsford, and he's the 5th best player on this football team, which is saying a lot because this is one of the best teams in the country.
All right, so the guy coming up next is another transfer. It's a kicker. And he's probably the best one in the country. But I want to tell you about Ibotta. I've been talking about Ibotta here, and they've been a sponsor before, and I appreciate them a ton. And I've had Ibotta for quite some time. And right now, I still got like $27 of cash back over the last few months. And you're like, $27? It's just free money. I mean, so why wouldn't you use it? I'm not buying stuff I don't need. I'm buying sandals and sunscreen and snacks for the kids and stuff for summer that you need. And so Ibotta is just a great way for you to make a little bit of extra cash in these troubling times. Other apps give you points that don't amount to much, but Ibotta gives you cash back. You can withdraw to your bank account or to PayPal or to gift cards, whatever you want. Simply add offers in the app, upload your receipt, and voila. The money is yours. You can save on over 2,200 brands and shop at over 1,000 different retailers. I go to Walgreens. I just tell you what I did. I used the Gametime app. Ibotta has Gametime on that. I'm getting 2.5% back on my 4 Wisconsin tickets. It's a lot of money. It's nice, y'all. It's time you joined over 50 million users who use Ibotta to earn cash back. Go right now to Ibotta and use the code LOCKEDONCollege when you register, and you'll get an extra $5 just to start. Just go to the App Store or Google Play, download the free Ibotta app to start earning cash back, and use code LOCKEDONCollege. That's IBOTTA, Ibotta. Then we're going to talk about Factor. Look, I am really getting into this thing. I can't wait to get my Factor meals. I'm going to do this because I got a granddad bod. I don't have a dad bod, and Factor is going to help me out with this. Make today the day you kickstart your new healthy routine. What are you waiting for? There's nothing to wait for. With 35 different meals and more than 60 add-ons to choose from every week, you'll always have new flavors to explore with Factor. You will love it. Crush your wellness goals this May with dietitian-approved meals and ingredients you can trust. Make your day delicious from breakfast to dessert. Stay fueled. Easy, nutritious options. It's just fantastic. Treat yourself to restaurant-quality meals that feature premium ingredients like filet mignon, shrimp, and blackened salmon, and keep the prep time to a minimum. There's things are ready in 2 minutes. Call to action. I'm telling you, you need to go check this out. All of you guys need to go check this out. This is my call to action for you. Head to factormeals.com/LockedOnCollege50 and use code LockedOnCollege50. Get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month. That's code LockedOnCollege50 at factormeals.com/LockedOnCollege50. Go check them out. Okay, so Graham Nicholson transfers to Alabama after the all-time leading scorer in NCAA history leaves Alabama for the Minnesota Vikings, who's doing really well for them in Will Reichard, by the way. And what happens? He's not even first-team All-SEC preseason. That plum goes to Burt Auburn, apparently. So it's like a double whammy insult for Alabama. The guy from Texas who's named Auburn beats out your guy who won the Lou Groza Award last year. Makes a lot of sense, I guess. Anyway, Graham Nicholson, I hated him last year because he stole the Lou Groza from Will Reichard, if you ask me. I sure be loving him this year because he's going to make us a bunch of FGs, Jimmy.
Good player for sure, and he's always been a good player. He wasn't just a one-hit wonder that had a magical season. He showed up at Miami of Ohio, a good player. I don't know where he was ranked out of high school, as if with kickers. I don't really think that matters too much, to be honest. But 15 of 20 his freshman year. I mean, that's a really solid freshman season. Then I think he followed that up with 18 of 23 his sophomore year. So he started out really good, got better. And then last year, the magical season, 27 of 28. I mean, how good do you have to beat out Reichard? The answer is 27 of 28. That's just a remarkable season of kicking, and he's improved every year. He's been at Miami of Ohio. His private trainer says he will kick in the NFL and has compared him to Sebastian Janikowski. Graham Nicholson, basically it's like getting another year of Reichard, really. I mean, in terms of like, Alabama's been really good at kicker for 5 years, thanks to Will Reichard. Now it'll be a 6th year in a row because this is a Reichard-level kicker or better, which is hard to imagine. But again, 27 to 28 speaks for itself. My hope, I've been trying to wish this into existence, guys. This is probably not going to happen. No one needs, but wouldn't it be great if Alabama next April saw Graham Nicholson get drafted, which is possible, James Burnap get drafted, which is possible, and even Neeland Hibbett, maybe the #1 long snapper in college football. If all 3 specialists got drafted, that's college football history. I've not looked it up, but I don't even have to. There's no way that's happened before, that 3 kickers were taken in a 7-round NFL draft, or 3 specialists. So that's how good Alabama is at specialists this year, at kicker, at punter, and long snapper. All 3 could get drafted, and this is a position where it's hard for anyone to get drafted at any of those positions. But Alabama could potentially pull it off. Again, trying to wish that into existence.
I hope it does come into existence. I'm also hoping that Graham Nicholson, I'm looking at his career stats. By the way, he's from Cincinnati. And his field goal percentage career is 96.4. Pretty good.
That's pretty good.
Extra point percentage is 94.6.
Isn't that weird? He has missed, I know these numbers off the top of my head. He's only missed 11 kicks in 3 years. 11 kicks, but he's missed 7 extra points. That's just weird. My first answer with that, and again, I don't know. This is just total speculation that could be way off. I wonder if they're bad snaps. That's something that we know a little bit about.
Would that be ironic?
We know a little bit about bad snaps, but we don't know about bad long snaps because Neeland Hibbett's got that on lockdown. Yeah. He's been good. But at Alabama, we do know a little bit about bad snaps the past year. So maybe that's it, because it doesn't really make a lot of sense. But hey, the kid was 27-28 last year on the field goals. So hey, we'll just simply ask for a repeat of that performance. Here's
my only request from Graham Nicholson this year. If he wins the Lou Groza again, he gives the other one to Will Reichard. Isn't that fair?
I don't think you can do that. No, I don't think he'll do that.
He can just give him the trophy.
I do think, for all the talk, and I'm not trying to minimize Reichard, I think for all the talk, I mean, Reichard wasn't 27 of 28 last year. I mean, Nicholson's numbers were better than Reichard's last year. Now, what Reichard deserved, and this is what he deserves, is some sort of a career Lou Groza award, and that doesn't exist.
Yeah, maybe we'll have a Will Reichard award later.
We'll see how he does in Minnesota. Like you said, I mean, the early word is good, and man, it'll be fun to watch Reichard kick for that purple team.
It will. All right, that's going to do it for today's podcast. We'll be back tomorrow with more of the countdown. It's winding down, bro, and we got some big names coming up. And you know what? Practice tomorrow.
Yeah, and I'll be there. So maybe on the next show, an actual practice report. How about that?
Here we go. All right, until then, roll tide, everybody.
Roll Tide.